I'd rather create something that others criticize than create nothing and criticize others.
If you have high quality product behind the bar, it's like weapon.
It's not about the figures. It's about who those figures are.
The Hospopreneurs Podcast.
I'm going to drink this beer.
Yeah, let's crack them.
With James Henderson.
Hello and welcome to episode 58 of the Hospopreneurs Podcast. I met Tasmin a few years ago, and since then his rostering and payroll company, Tanda, has gone through an aggressive international expansion. This episode is how technology affects our lives, some emerging opportunities and limitations with artificial intelligence and virtual reality, and how Tasmin executes his vision, attempting to build technology that actually improves people's lives. We also discuss liquor legislation and a controversial world record attempt. Find out why Tasmin thinks having a toaster is really cool. Hello and welcome to the show, Tasmin.
Oh, thank you.
No worries, mate. No worries. The first question I like to ask is, what's your crazy hospitality story?
There are a lot of crazy stories. Hospitality specifically, I can go between running the student bar when I was at university or the toga party. What would you like?
Mate, I like the toga story, so tell us about the toga party.
Like toga parties. They start out at night shit which is in a bed sheet and sweaty and surrounded by people. No, so toga party was an event we held at on campus. So it was, I think, coming from the bush up in the Daintree to university. So we ended up pitching on campus, like, hey, we should have this really great event on campus. You know, why doesn't it be a toga party? You know, we eventually, I ran become the president of the Student Association, and we somehow pulled off, and we started saying, oh, it should be the world's largest one.
Yeah.
We realized we could actually break the world record for it. So we flew in the Guinness Book of World Records guy.
Yeah.
Flying from the UK and judge us event. I think we broke the record with about 3,200 or so.
Yes.
So they judged it. Pouring rain. It was the craziest night. And I just remember there was one moment where we didn't realise everyone has to be in the same venue for the record to be kind of like ticked off.
Yeah.
And everyone wanted to leave. And I had to be like, no, look, please stay, don't leave.
Yeah.
Which is really not the best thing to say to a room like
3,200 people, yeah.
Well, it was 100 of them being like, leave, like, let me leave, and throwing like cans at me and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, yes, aggressive.
But we ticked up the record, obviously couldn't hold them because that's against liquor licensing and all that kind of stuff, so didn't do anything wrong.
Detain your guests.
Yeah, I don't know how long the statute of limitations apply for that. And then, yeah, we broke the record for that. And I've just learned, so the people we broke the record from was the town where they filmed Animal House. Which was the movie that popularised toga parties in America.
Wow.
And then recently, like last month, tried to take it back.
Did they win?
Well, it's actually, so they didn't actually get an official there. We were much smarter.
Oh, nice.
So they didn't get the official there, and they got record footage of them doing it, and it's currently under review by the officials.
Oh.
So we don't know. The suspense is over.
How are they going to count that though? Like, are they looking at... Because you can't look at Facebook attendance anymore. That is long gone.
You're like, 100 people are going to go, 2 people rock up.
Yeah, that's right.
That's basically how that works. So yeah, it's we're not sure yet.
How are they adjudicating that? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, so when we were there, it was kind of, they had a legitimate dude who wore a suit and had the lapel pin and had a clipboard.
Yeah.
It was very Guinness Book. Like, you actually have to pay these people. It was like 10K to bring.
Oh.
And he's just going to be like, yeah, tick, sound.
Because I want to know how he tallies too. Because is he like, I'm going to draw a line on your hand and like,
I think it's like
one.
I think he's an expert.
He's just like
judging how many people are in the crowd.
3,200.
Yeah.
Takes you a couple minutes.
But so they didn't do that. I think it's because they weren't sure if they were going to break it or not. So
yeah.
They didn't want to make the investment. We're a lot more confident.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: if they take it back, I'm just going to
you just do a big one.
Anymore,
you're not going to go again?
Well, they've run the event every year since,
yeah.
So hopefully they rebreak the record.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I love that story. Thank you very much for sharing.
No, pleasure. Yeah.
The next question I like to ask is why you do what you do. I like to take it super macro. Let's go on a really high level. Why do you do what you do?
Yeah. So I think when I was growing up, I just remember reading this quote somewhere that said, if you want to make people happy, sell ice cream. So kind of when I went to university, I was very interested around business and kind of how you improve services to people, frontline happy, and that kind of I delved into what is happiness. Is it fulfillment? Is it gratification? Just two arguments over that. But really, for me, it was like, how do I become the best at what we do? How do we build businesses better to help increase the services and happiness of their clients?
Yes.
So that's the reason why I come.
That's awesome. That delineation between happiness and fulfillment is something that I've thought a lot about myself, and there are a lot of resources on that. I think a lot of people encounter this at some stage, at some point, that they realize that there's instant gratification, and then there's this longer term satisfaction.
Yeah, I think the best example that I saw was at the Echo, which was the first time going actually. Loved it. And there I was looking at like a VR stand where kids got to pretend like they're in a field using VR, which I think is the most underutilization of technology ever, is using VR to pretend they're in a field. Yeah. But you could tell the kids were using that, and then they started playing Fruit Ninja on it. So they were playing, and they really enjoyed doing it.
Yeah.
But when they took it off, there was this feeling of, well, I haven't actually achieved anything. And that stand was right next to the wood chop. So I'm not sure if you know the wood chop, but it's basically you're just chopping a log.
Yes.
Which is not fun whilst you're doing it. But at least when it's done, you can look down and say,
I chopped that wood.
I fucking chopped that piece of wood.
That's right.
And that's the kind of philosophy I think we bring into try and see it work as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of the happiness is about like, am I getting really good at something? Am I achieving something? And what am I going through to get that? Like, there's always going to be sacrifice and stuff to get that.
Yes. On that then, with the prevalence of, or I suppose the coming prevalence of VR and AR, do you think that there's going to be more of a problem around people feeling dissatisfied with things that they achieve in a virtual reality?
Yeah, well, I think this is a really interesting thing about tech as well, which is a world I've gone headfirst into. And just because I know, like growing up in Daintree, we didn't have electricity. So I didn't have a toaster until I was probably 14, 15.
Well,
and I think people are like, that's fucking weird. But it's not.
Well, does that mean you didn't have toast until you were 14, 15?
No, the old gas,
or you used the
gas oven. So
cool,
put it down.
cool.
It's like,
Old school toast. I like that.
I mean, we started with a kerosene fridge, so like we were behind the times. But people are like, well, that's strange. Why'd you get into technology? Like, well, that's because I know how much technology can help improve our lives.
Nice.
So having a toaster is really cool. Like, it saves you a lot of time in the morning. Like, you don't have to singe your arm hairs trying to light the oven up.
Yeah.
It's good for a number of reasons. So I think that's kind of why I went into technology.
Yeah.
Is because I know how much it can improve people's lives. But here's the thing, it's a double-edged sword. So you can use it, much like anything, you can use it for good and bad. So there's that real vacant and vapid technology, which kind of creates that sense of dissatisfaction. And those things are easy to do. Like, it's the things that we get addicted to.
Yes.
And it doesn't actually improve our lives. What we're trying to really focus is on is like, how can we build technology that actually helps improve people's lives and actually makes them better at work, more satisfied, more fulfilled, business more successful, help their clients be happier. That's the kind of technology we build.
Does that mean also having that experience growing up, does that mean I kind of feel that you'd be more aware of those responses to technology that people have? Has it made you more or hyper aware of people's reaction to technology?
Yeah, no, of course. So I think that's why we just doubled down on making sure it's actually making a difference in people's lives.
Yes.
It's something that's useful.
Yes.
It's not detracting from the work now. It's helping useful.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about your story, a little bit about Tanda and what you're building at Tanda and what you have built over the last few years. It's been an incredibly aggressive growth of the business. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so the first question, I guess, and the toga party, the bar was a bit of a trick question, because I was going to tell you both anyway. The Botanic Bar I was managing a student bar on campus, and they were both losing like $40K each. We thought, if you can't sell alcohol to students, you're doing something fundamentally wrong. So that's also the reason we wanted to get involved. And so the bars were losing that, but they're running all these other commercial services. Total, the organisation was losing $800K a year. That's all students' money as a not-for-profit. We got in, realised, 100 casual staff, that was really where a lot of the power in terms of like, are we delivering more services to students? What are we actually doing as quality of the work that we do? What are we offering? How can we add more services? And that was all in our frontline staff. So we doubled down and invested in that. Had $1 million turnaround, so finished the year with $200K surplus. And it was kind of out of that with this philosophy of workforce success was born, which was how do you actually help the frontline teams be successful? And that kind of kickstarted because we went out and looked for software to implement. We thought that was going to be technology was going to be the biggest leap for us. We had to do things quickly, but we were going to run out of money. And we couldn't find anything in the market that was good. We didn't want to waste too much money on it, so we just wanted to build something. Yeah, we've gone from 0 to 140 staff. It's a lot easier when you start at 0, not negative 800K.
Yes.
So, the last 4 years gone from 0 to 140, so US, UK, Australia.
Yes. For those who don't know what Tanda is or does, tell us a bit about the business and even just on what you would explain to someone who hasn't heard about Tanda.
Yeah, for sure. So our mission is kind of to empower frontline workforces to be the best software in the world. So we're trying to build technology that, if you're thinking, so like hospitality venue here, you've got however many staff, you've got to roster them on, so make sure they're on the right hours. You've got to then cost it and how much you're going to spend this week. You're going to send it to staff via, instead of doing it on paper and Excel and all sorts of systems, you can just have an app, go straight to, everyone knows their hours, all the staff are engaged and aware of when they're working. When they get to work, we can track their time. So clock in, clock out, apply things like the hospitality award, so workforce compliance. Don't get me started on workforce compliance, because this will be like a 2-hour show on my opinion. But it's basically the most complicated place.
We are going to open some chat on legislation soon.
That's crazy. All right, well, get ready for 2 hours. It's something that we've always seen as way too complicated in Australia, so we wanted to solve that. And then that's kind of what the software does.
Excellent. Actually, you know what? I want to open a bit more on legislation while we're here.
Oh, yeah, let's
So,
dive straight in. All right?
You've been involved with other campaigns as well.
Yeah.
Tell us about those campaigns locally that you've been part of or that you've started.
So a large part, I guess, work, the software we build, and I think where we see the world is that mixture of freedom and responsibility. Freedom to be able to achieve and become who you are, but the responsibility to help those kind of around you, and also to take responsibility for helping other people. So two big things we saw in that were the no curfew when they came in. We're very against that. Like we saw just the impact on clients. We saw the impact like the people who were working in venues.
Yes.
There were less hours. It's people who were trying to get through university, and people should have the freedom and responsibility to enjoy it night out.
Yes.
Without being told when they can't do it.
Yes, and for those listening as well, no curfew, because we've got listeners all over the world, so no curfew, if you can just give us a bit about no curfew.
Yeah, so basically they tried to shut down the nightlife within Brisbane, and they're doing it in a couple of states in Australia. And we basically said, look, this isn't on. Like you're not punishing the right people. Like you're going at it completely the wrong way. So we were very big on it's vital for a city to have a 24/7 nightlife, 24/7 economy. Because if you don't, you're not engaging in young people that actually want to stay in the cities.
Yes.
And they're going to go elsewhere.
Yes.
We've seen it in technology and right across the industries where people graduate and they'll go somewhere else, and people will stop coming here, they'll stop visiting.
Yes.
And the people that hurt most were the people who were working in the industry, which are usually people who are studying at university, the most vulnerable. So working in university is their first jobs. They've only just started, so they're just experienced in the workforce. And we're cutting down their hours and cutting down their experience at work.
Yes.
So we thought that was not in line with that is the payroll tax. So we're very we think it's like a theft of workers. It's like it doesn't make sense. Whilst we talk about wage theft, to then just conveniently forget that the government levies up to 5% of workers' salary, and we think it stops employment, stops jobs,
Absolutely.
stops helping people get involved in the workforce.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Those two big campaigns.
Yeah, big time. Even in that, how do you go about starting a campaign?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Let's go super ground
talk
floor.
about it.
Yeah.
So I guess it comes in, well, what is the actual philosophy here? And what are we trying to achieve? So, like with the payroll tax, not many people even know about it. It's something that's quite kind of swept
Yes.
under the rug. no one really talks about it. But we've got a problem with like waging. Like we need to get wages and like productivity and wages up in this country. So obviously it's having growth in that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the best ways you can do that is just by getting rid of tax or reduce.
Yep.
And then create incentives for people to employ people. So that's kind of to distill it down to the philosophy. What kind of world we want to see?
Yes.
We want to see a world that employs more people. People are happy to work. And businesses are investing in communities. So that's where we saw a lot of power. And I realised that people are going to have to.
Yes. On the world that you want to see, I want to open that up a little bit more. So what sort of innovations have you seen in the industry that are really pushing things forward, that you've really, not just that you've liked, but things maybe that you've not liked it as well?
Yeah, well, I think for venues, I think it's the same with tech. There's like riches and then inches. So the venues going super targeted towards a certain type of demographic. I think before we used to see generalists. Now we're seeing like, we want that particular audience.
Mm-hmm.
As we get more venues, I think it's being hyper contextual to people and being targeted towards what audiences they want to bring in.
Yes.
There's two things you can do, I guess, as a venue. Increase your revenue, so get more people through the door buying beers, decrease your costs. Business is actually not hard. It's very easy. It's actually people that are hard. So business is easy, people are hard. So what like the innovations we're trying to build with our tech is all around that people side. So what we're seeing is things like, instead of just everyone kind of just does all their people, and we say workforce management, it's all about success. So management, it's about how you do more with people. But instead of just haphazardly guessing who should be on when, we can actually look at things like foot traffic, look at the weather, look at sales historically, and say because of that, next Tuesday you should have 5 people in the bar, 2 people outside, 1 person on delivery. Those people are Tom, Sally, and Aaron.
Yes.
So turning the kind of taking the guesswork out, making actually a science around who's our producers, but like how do we optimize the people we have on deck is huge. It's a huge difference.
Are you looking into AI to do all that programming, to organise those sorts of things, to see who the best people are, their sales and whatnot, and do you, I'll ask another question after that, I got too many...
Yeah, so AI, machine learning, algorithms,
yes.
It's kind of building all the ratios when we build a schedule, a roster we kind of think about, and what it's actually putting that into like a pattern and reducing. It's super boring because it's technically it's likened to the traveling salesman problem, which where you have 10 places to visit and you have to optimize a route for that. There's an infinite number of ways you can go between them.
I'm really weird. I like that stuff. So.
Yeah, super. I won't get into that. We'll be here for 4 hours.
Totally.
But this is the same. Like when it comes to a person, how you have X amount of people filling X amount of roles. There is actually a number of ways you can build that. So what we're trying to do is produce an outcome. Because no one wants rostering software. They want roster.
Yes.
They'll produce it, give it to the manager. The manager can then say, "Oh, well, actually, I want Sally instead of Bob."
Yeah.
And make the tweaks. And
Yes. Do you integrate with the POS system as well, then to make sure that all sinks in, people's sales and that sort of back end?
Yeah. Which is super important. So even though labor's, like it's the most expensive asset, the highest producing one, and it's the least volatile, it's always contextual to sales. So your sales at the end of the day might be 2% down, but if your wages are 3% up, you've got a problem.
Yes.
Vice versa, like if your sales are to you need to look at both contexts.
Yes.
To kind of make sense.
Yes.
So we got really good at just live. So we released a whole new feature last month called the Live Wage Tracker, which was, why does it take it to the end of payroll to see wages live? Why can't we just look right now exactly how much the budget is spent, how much we're exactly spending on hospitality labor?
Yes.
And then say it's exactly this. The next level is actually then comparing that against sales. So you can get a live, to the minute view on your wages as a percentage of sales.
Awesome.
So, and we always thought you can track a pizza from the store to your house live. Why can't a business do that for them, like the most important asset.
Yes.
It made no sense for us.
Yes.
That's why we delved into all the workforce compliance stuff and realized just how complicated it was. We had to build like a whole workforce compliance engine just to fix that. So that was good.
Absolutely.
But it was a reason why it never had happened before, just because
Yeah.
of how complex it was.
Yes.
And anyone who's working on hospitality.
So what through that you would have encountered a lot of things that you want to see change. Obviously, you've seen something that you wanted to exist and you've made that exist. What are some other things that you want to change in the industry?
Yeah, so I think a big one is around staff engagement. So when we started, it was just all how do we remove all the administration, like the bureaucracy that were involved in just running a venue for the managers, and that was things like paper timesheets, how to cross things off, Excel rosters. It was all the stuff that was just taking away from their time. And then we realized as we started kind of building apps, the big change we wanted to make was around engagement of the teams who work in venues. So I think like the stats kind of going around, it's like 13% of staff in hospitality are actually engaged. But if you're over 13% engaged as a venue, your profitability is likely to be 20% higher, 27% higher. So it's like we know when your staff are more engaged, you sell more, and it's easy. If you go down to a coffee shop and then you order a cappuccino and they don't offer you a cupcake with it, you do not have engaged staff. You do not care about the top line revenue of your business. That's for us. That's really where we're trying to focus, and that's what that success bit is.
Awesome.
Is how do you make the business and the team and everything so aligned? It's all about how do we do more as a company? How do we do more as a business and grow together?
Yeah,
So
100%.
What we really want to see, and that comes down to like the software, but it's not just that. It's around like people, it's the processes, it's everything.
Yeah. It's interesting 'cause something I've been looking into recently is trying to systemize the human component, systemize human training, for example, right? Making sure people are the same. And you guys seem to be doing a very similar thing in a different way, making sure that you've got all this tech, but then what you're really doing is working with people behind that tech. So it's super interesting. Yeah.
Oh, it's huge because and I think the way we see it is any time that's not on the front line is dead time. It's wasted time. Like it's any time that isn't out there talking to a customer or making their experience and making them happy.
Yeah.
Go back to my ice cream analogy. It's wasted time because that's not why you started the business in the first place. No one started a business to do tax file watching or look at a roster or have to manage someone's sick leave.
Yep.
That's not why they did it.
Yep.
Like we started, I'm sure this venue was started to help people have great experiences and great memories. And that happiness component comes into it as well because it's not about just having happiness while you're here. It's taking the memory, having fulfillment outside of it.
Yes.
Because I think you don't make money in hospitality unless someone comes back 3 times. You only make money every time someone came in once.
That's
you're
right.
Basically in the airport, sure, just waiting for people to take flights and have the
Yes.
You're not actually creating experiences or somewhere that some people want to go.
Yeah. On that, how do you believe a venue can create an amazing experience for a guest?
Yeah, so I think it's just those little things. So it's getting people back for the third and fourth time. And we realize making a venue nice, looking at pretty, marketing, advertising, will get people to come in once. That'll get people through the door once. The second, the third, the fourth is all the people. It's the experience that the team actually creates. If it doesn't matter how good your venue is or how good your food is, if someone brings it out, is not happy and just serves it, you're like, here you go. Don't talk to it. Hey, can I get a napkin? Nah. Not my problem. Then they're not going to come back.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter how good. So to get them the third, the fourth time, that's where we're really just trying to empower the people to create great experiences and deliver for the client.
Yes.
And then that fixes any problem. That's the end problem to fix.
Yes.
Everything else solves itself.
Obviously, you're a creative mind, right? Being an entrepreneur yourself, you've gone through. You might not maybe you do. You may see yourself as a creative.
Sure
I saw that reaction. You're like, didn't see yourself
I
as
dropped
a.
out of film school.
Well, to be to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a creative thinker. Business is really just a medium to execute creative ideas. That's one way to execute creative ideas. Other ways are through music or art or there's all sorts of other ways. I love business as a medium of expression, of creative expression, because you can actually change things. You can actually change the way that the world operates. You can change systems in the world. So that's why I love business as a creative avenue.
I'm not out here to be Picasso. I'm just trying to make other people money. Like that's it.
But you get to take an idea that you have
Yeah.
and turn that into something.
Totally.
Right?
I get what you. Yeah. I get
So
what
my
you're
question is, how do you get into a state to generate ideas?
saying. Yeah. So for us, I think it's for us it's a process of just complete detachment of ourselves and conscientiousness around the problem we're actually trying to solve. So I think it's helpful that I ran a bar. So it's myself and 3 other founders as well. So like we ran a bar. But when we're trying to solve particular problems or ideas, it's come up with new ideas. It's actually taking us out of our shoes and saying what problems our client have.
Yeah.
How would they like to see this fixed? And that's kind of our detachment process for creating new ideas.
Yes.
So you kind of remove yourself out of the equation.
Yes. It's empathy
Yeah, it is.
Really?
It's just 100%.
to the 100th person.
How do we help? And that's what we do as an internal company as well. Is how do we make that new hire successful? How do we make the front line successful?
Mm-hmm.
So if we can do that, I mean, that's our responsibility. So if we can do that, everything sorts itself out.
Yes. So getting into that empathetic state, is it a matter of embodying empathy, or how do you train that into people who work for you?
I think you have to. I think this comes back to creating, like empowering the front line.
Yeah.
Because then they'll be able to see the difference they're making in someone else's life. So part of workforce success is just becoming the best at what you do. So being the best. If you're going to do something, be the fucking best at it. Why be anything else? But you have to see it in the context of helping someone else do the same. So when we become the best at what we do, we help other people in our environment do that. And I think to develop the empathy, you just kind of have to see it. Like when you serve a kid ice cream and you see their face light up, you know, like, I'm making that person happy. I'm going to keep doing more of that.
Not everyone sees that though.
Yeah.
Not everyone sees that. I feel like, are they just not suited for certain jobs or careers? Or, I mean, some people... Well, some people though.
Yeah.
I'm lactose intolerant, but I love ice cream.
Yeah.
Look, I'm still going to eat ice cream. But
Yeah, they get like this intolerant ice cream now.
yeah, it's delicious, by the way. It's just got a bit more lactase in its breakdown of lactose. Anyway, without going on to a whole rant about ice cream, how do you teach people that empathy, or is that something that you look for when you're hiring?
We definitely look for it. Like
Yes.
that conscientious piece.
How do you filter that then?
I like to see what people's controversial opinions are.
Yes.
So I think that's part of it. So there's two sides of it really. If you're so empathetic about everything around you, then you're just going to be like a sponge. Like you're never going to have your own opinion because you're afraid of offending
Right.
others. And you never. Back to your campaign question. Well, first thing if you're going to start a campaign, there's going to be people out there who disagree with you. So when I say stop payroll tax, there's probably a department in the government that all says, let's get that guy.
Yeah.
Like, let's get him. When I say no curfew campaign, same thing. So you've got to empathise with, like, what kind of world you want to like, see and the different people that live in that. But then you've kind of got to take a stand and say, well, no, this is actually what I believe in at the core. This is my philosophy. This is what I've seen work through my experiences.
Yes.
And, so for the staff, it's the same. So opinions are great, but like, do you actually have conviction on what you're doing about it?
Yes.
Because everyone's got an opinion these days. They're easy to have.
So
Like,
is
in
it...
my opinion, dogs have 6 legs and sound like a car horn. Yes. I mean, I'm entitled to it, but that doesn't mean it's a good opinion.
Yes. Fair. Does that mean you're looking for the specific opinions from people when you ask their opinion on something controversial?
Conviction. Yeah.
Just passion,
Yeah,
and,
passion,
and commitment to that.
Because
Yeah.
I think if you can have that, like as a hospitality venue, and you can see it in the staff when they come in, then they'll find that happiness within the client they serve. If it's always internal, I'm just here to get to the end of the day and go home. Then, I mean, of course, you're never going to have a successful
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Because like your staff aren't engaged, your clients aren't engaged. But here's where a lot of venues fall down as well. They just kind of expect that. They're just like, I expect because I pay you, then you'll be like that.
Yeah.
That's not true. Like a lot of people in hospitality are working part-time, casual because they're putting themselves through university. So how do you align their goals and higher goals with their work life?
Totally.
And it's not about work-life balance. I don't like that. Like it's work life.
Yeah.
You should be good at what you do and you love doing it. But you can align the goals for that to happen. Classic case with our software is things like unavailability.
Mm-hmm.
So someone will have a university schedule and they'll have a work schedule, but because the business does it on paper or Excel, there's no way for these two to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
So the business rosters people on whilst they're in university.
Mm.
As soon as that happens, I don't really care about work anymore. And you've completely disengaged.
Yes.
Instead of just having like a neat software that you just interlace the two and you know straight away. And, you're not making those margins. Or paying someone. It's the easiest way to piss someone off.
Mm-hmm.
Just pay them wrong. And I'll hate you forever. So that's what we've been. We realized as we were building the software, it was actually about getting rid of all the administration stuff whilst they were saving people time.
Yes.
It's just to stop people from not being disengaged with work. So they can fully commit and make the business successful.
Mm. So there are a lot of routes that I want to go down with that. I think that the best way to move forward, I think, is to ask the challenges that you have now, that you face now, and how they've changed over the last few years. What are the sort of problems that you've had previously compared to what you have now?
Yeah, so for us, it's always been finding the right people, and the right people who have big ideas and conviction around it, and wanting to make a big difference, and wanting to actually achieve it. And a lot of the time, there's a lot of hard work involved in that. So there's, it's about finding the right people who fit the right culture to want to make that big difference. Like we think we're solving one of the most complicated problems in the world, which is how you use teams to make businesses successful, and how all something kind of comes into that. Because there's so many different angles for like opinions in this kind of world. It's always been very hotly contentious and debated. So for us, it's about defining what we actually believe, sticking by it, and building a team around that says, let's make this work. That's always been the biggest challenge we've had. So
And that's not changed. It's been the same.
yeah, so we've always prioritised that. I guess another challenge is we've always prioritised doing good work over talking about doing good work. So this is quite, like doing something like this is quite foreign to me. I don't really do this. So it's more about, for us, evolving as well. So it's good that we have something that's,
It's awesome.
yeah, it's awesome.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
You don't have to
it's
say
like-
it because you want to be humble. I'll say it. It's awesome.
Yeah, but it's about like then going out and talking about it, because you can build the best thing in the world, but as people know about it, it still doesn't exist. So, and it's like you can build the best ice cream. It's actually about handing it over and saying, "Hey, you want to try my ice cream?"
Yes.
You're like, "Fucking ice cream is dope."
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
It's interesting because there's this X factor. It's this component that people don't really talk about. Because you've got your product. Let's stick with an ice cream. We've talked about ice cream way too much to not stick with an ice cream analogy.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at an ice cream. The ice cream is the product. Businesses think about their product. They think about, and maybe they have a great product. And then they think about the marketing of that product. But then the actual delivery of that to the patron, to the guest, to the client, to the customer, whoever that is that you serve, in whatever industry you're in, you're always serving somebody.
Yeah.
Right? People don't think about how that occurs between the business and the patron. Is that another angle for marketing, or is it what is it?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good question. So that's
What
why we
is it?
say be the best at what you do for the service of others. So that's kind of that comes because you need to be understanding of how it's like inviting me on and asking me questions about how you grow fan farms.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it would be making for a very good podcast. So I think it comes down to marketing.
Yes.
Which I think Australians are just so down to earth and genuine. We hate talking about what we do, and we kind of look at people who do and say like, I can't.
Yeah, tall poppy.
Yeah.
I've talked about that on the show before as well.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
It's classic. So so we were building a team in the US, and they are the complete opposite.
Yeah.
So which I love their like tenacity. It's like they're not afraid to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what makes the country That's what makes it good. So like, give me a tire, you're poor, you're hungry. It's all marketing. Like it's like, just if you want to be the best, come to the country.
Yeah.
And right, it's maybe not true when they first said it, but it's become true because they've said it.
Yes.
So you've always got to push the envelope and imagine a better world. And then unless you start talking about it, you're never going to exist.
Having said that, talking about it doesn't actually make it reality.
No.
Like you said, you one of your philosophies is in doing first, not just talking about, doing great work, not just talking about doing great work. So there's that, people have that detachment as well. So that you have to have both that align. You've got to talk about it, but you also have to focus on the execution of it.
Yeah.
But the correct execution of it. How do you believe people can learn to correctly execute something?
Yeah, it's super important because if you just talk about it and don't do anything, you're just a fraud and people will just get sick of you. Because you've got nothing else to do. You're not actually. You need something to follow that up.
Yes.
In terms of executing, it's one of our first company values, which is just get it done.
Yes.
So there's, you do something, get it done. Like there's, you've got to talk about ideas. I think that's important. But then when it comes to actually implementing it, then you've just got to knock it down and actually do it for the right reasons. So have whoever you're trying to help at heart, and that makes it a lot easier. So I think it's what you've got to think about them. Like I see a lot of fake. I think this is a lot of like faux innovation. So like this like bugbears around like state like funding stuff that doesn't really real. It's more like so I think in Kenya there was like a dog walking app or not dog walking. I think it's actually weight loss for dogs or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Is that the best thing?
Yeah.
Is that the best way we can help people?
Is that along the lines of where you see?
That's it. I mean, a lot of dogs need to lose some weight. Like, hands
Yeah,
down.
there are some
Get out of
fat
your
dogs
phone.
out
There's
there.
some fat dogs, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
But
What have we done to dogs, by the way?
yeah.
Like, they used to be
We can talk about dogs.
Women's best friend. Like, they used to be. Now they're just docile and just, they don't really cheat.
Yeah, and they're deformed from their.
Yeah, they can't even breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are we doing this to dogs? Why do we hate dogs?
We don't hate dogs. We don't hate dogs. I don't think humanity hates dogs.
So you love something so much.
Well, that does happen, and that I guess that's related to what I'm trying to say is, are people getting too carried away with certain tools, or are we too obsessed with certain things in reality that we just get carried away with them, and then we end up inventing apps like weight loss for dogs, or people make all sorts of ridiculous things. I can't think of anything off the top of my head straight away, but people listening at home will be thinking, there are some ridiculous things that I've seen that people have done with technology. Why do we do that?
Yeah.
Is it is it a flaw in the human condition, or is it?
I think it's just so easy to live in our own bubble. I think it's just getting easier and easier. You can just
because of technology?
walk it. No, I wouldn't. I mean, yeah, I think it's part of it, but there's definitely other things that play here. And I think it's losing a sense of yourself, like having becoming self-actualized. I think that's a large part of it. So, but it's also I'm so passionate about people's first jobs. So I think you're not self-actualized until you've earned a dollar.
Totally.
Because then you have to decide where to spend the dollar.
Yeah.
And then you actually decide who you want to be, because that's your dollar that you've earned. Until then, you're a leech. Like you're just leeching off your parents. You're not your own person. You might think you are. You might have a lot of opinions on your title. You've done nothing. You've achieved nothing. You're good for nothing.
Yes.
You've got to go work and make someone else happy to self-actualize and then become who you are. So
People still aren't self-actualized after their first job, but it might steer them in the direction to become self-actualized.
it's a great story I like is Milton Humason. So I think it's how you pronounce his name. But it was this. He just worked at. It was called the Mount Wilson Hotel, I think it was. And that was his first job. He was just like a bellboy, and then he was a mule driver. So he started delivering the food from the hotel up to there was an observatory, and then slowly got to learn the observatory folk, and then got an internship at the observatory and started working in the observatory, and then he was credited with Edwin Hubble as the people who discovered that we weren't, there was something out of the sun, like it wasn't the only thing in the solar system, and it wasn't like that. The Mount Wilson Hotel was so integral part of the story. Like we don't see that often.
Yes.
Like we just see that Edwin Hubble, we're not the only person in the universe, which I think is good as a physical and metaphysical analogy. But it's all about the Mount Wilson Hotel and self-actualizing. Like you don't just become an astronomer. You don't just become a nurse or a doctor or someone who works in finance. You usually go to university. You work in hospitality. And if you didn't work in hospitality, you wouldn't become those things.
Yes.
So first job's critical for self-actualization. So where I come from, Cairns, like up there, 22% youth unemployment. Like it's not that 1 out of 5 kids are just deciding to sit at home and play Xbox. That may be part of it. But it's just the opportunities, we're making it harder for people to get involved. Or we're not wanting to get involved, which is just it's wasted potential. And I think it's probably a better answer to your question of why. Because I can see that wasted potential. I see the potential in people. And then when that happens, I get a little sad. So that's why I do that.
I love it. But that's why, that's really ultimately then what drives you, which is amazing. That's a great answer to the question.
Yeah.
I like uncovering over the episode, almost every guest, we get into a deeper answer to the why. That's why I do what I do, is to try to find deeper answers to questions.
Yeah, and maybe it's just a manifestation of my get it done philosophy, which is you ask me a question, I answer it terribly, and then I just wait 20 minutes and then just circle back and answer it properly.
But that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Because you ultimately get to the right place, I think.
Yeah, if you think
about it.
Or you go crazy.
Yes.
You get in your bubble.
Totally.
So, back to the bubble thing, I think the way you burst it is just you've got to get yourself out of your own head. So we built the software when it was us in a bar, but it would never have been a business if we didn't get completely out of our own head, completely remove ourselves, and then think about how to make other people successful.
Yes.
That's all I care about. How do I make business money? How do I make people who work at Tanda successful? How do I make clients who go to those businesses successful? It's not management. It's not. It's about that. How do we build stuff that doesn't exist yet?
Yes. I want to go back onto a question about Tanda. Because the best advice I've received is to be successful, you have to be able to do 2 things. You have to know how to raise capital and hire people. And they said they were the only 2 things that you need to know how to do. And it makes total sense. Because if you can raise the money and convince someone that you can do something, they give you the cash, you go out and do it, and you hire the right people to execute that thing will exist. How have you gone about, for example, over your journey, raising capital for Tanda and going through that sort of process? I know it's a big question, so I'll try to keep that more condensed for listeners, but your experience in raising capital.
Yeah. Human capital trumps financial capital is kind of what, if you invest in your team, and we've doubled down on that time and time again, they'll pull through for you, as long as you have the right kind of vision and processes, those kind of stuff. Not to say, it's important that you make money because it's a signal that you're providing that amount of money. So you've got to get money in the business somehow. There's kind of 2 ways you can do it. You can go to the venture capital market, traditional, those kind of routes, which we saw as kind of a distraction from solving your real problems. So if your capital is coming from someone who doesn't really understand the problem, well then you got a conflict because the person you're going to try to satisfy who's looking for returns doesn't really understand the problem. So that's kind of what we've come across, which is, and it's been a general theme for us, and we have a theory around it, which is controversial, which is.
I want to hear it then.
Yeah, well, the reason why venture capitalists don't get what we do is because we build working class software. So we build software for people who just generally, so retail, hospitality, manufacturing, nursing, people who work shift, they work hourly. A lot of people just don't get that.
Yeah.
The same reason why people ignore the working class is the same reason they ignore trying to build things to help improve the working class.
Yes.
So we've cared a lot about that, and the working class, by the way, is is the largest producing
class. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the largest. It's fucking people who pay taxes. It's people who who generate, it's people who work. It's what does stuff. It's the doers of the world. But time and time again, they're kind of put to the side.
They're not appreciated.
No, they're not appreciated.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we've been so successful, is because we understand and get that. I mean, all of our four founders. So it's, well, how do we make them successful? And we've understood that, and that's been responded to us by building great software that people love to use, or pay us to use, because they know it'll make them much more successful. So I think that's why we've angled towards more our actual market, the VC market.
Yes.
And tied up in that has been controversial work.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, I really like that answer as well.
I mean, it could be completely wrong.
It resonates with me personally. I came from a very humble background. Worked my ass off in state schools. Went to UQ, studied hard there, and ultimately, I was at one of the most respected universities in Australia. And then decided that I didn't want to go down a white collar route. Wasn't my thing. Didn't want to sit at a desk all day. I wanted to engage with people over the bar.
Yeah.
I loved hospitality, so that's why I'm in this industry, because I didn't really connect with sitting at a desk. It wasn't my thing, and I like working a blue collar job.
Yeah.
That's what I enjoy. So that totally resonates with me.
No, that's why I love the hospitality industry, because you're so close to making people happy.
Yeah.
Why would you want to be anywhere else?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Yes.
I think it's for the same people, the same reason why there's some people out there who might walk past and say, oh, you work in a bar, or oh, you work in a cupcake shop, or oh, you work in a manufacturing job. And you can kind of tell that little tone in their voice which says
it's condescending.
It's somehow not it's like, the only people who have something to complain about is people who don't have enough to do. And I think I'm actually sad for them. Like the people who walk past and say, oh, you work in a pizza shop. I'm like, you just don't have enough in your life.
Yeah.
Like, you don't. Or
Yeah.
else, I mean, they might be trying to get ahead. Like, it's like going to the gym and making fun of the
Yeah, the guy starting out. Why would you do
why
that?
would you do that?
I mean,
That's so rude.
It's slightly different, because it's like
it's elitist.
It is elitist,
Yeah.
and it's this detachment, this class detachment. I wonder if so you believe that that's happening in the VC world, that they're just disconnected?
No, I'm not going to say that's going to happen. I'm going to say it's just like as a general, I think when it comes to how we actually make working class businesses successful, hourly shift people. No one's really thinking about it, at least to the level we are, how to make them successful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad to be on the journey with somebody else. Appreciate that. Yeah. But
There's a lot of work to be done.
if you could have a piece of advice, one piece of advice for someone who wants to do what you do, what would you give to them?
Never take my advice. Never take someone else's advice that doesn't have skin in the game. So
You've got skin in the game now, though.
Yeah.
So what would your advice be?
Okay. So the worst piece of advice I ever got was don't hire people that have conflict of interest. And I realised that is the worst piece of advice I got, because it's kind of no conflict of interest. You have to be emotionally invested in your team and their success for them to be successful. And the same, the team needs to be emotionally invested to want to be successful as well. So, and that's what drives our decision making processes is usually emotion.
Yes.
Like that's it. It's that wanting to make other people happy. So I've come to realize no conflict, no interest.
Right. So they have to have a conflict of interest.
It has to be conflict.
Interesting. In some sense.
Well, not a conflict of interest. Just in a sense of
conflicting
you
interests.
have to be emotionally invested in them.
Okay.
Because the opposite of no conflict of interest is don't really care if that person succeeds or not. That's how I see it. It's
Okay.
like, no, I don't think that'll ever work.
Yes. The way
It's like me not caring. It's like me trying to make me being a founder, me really successful, and not thinking at all about how to make someone else successful.
Yeah.
That's how you end up with weight loss for dogs.
Yep. That vapidity, and it's, if that's a word, I hope that's a word. If we can make vapid change the word.
This is good. I should get out more. This is good fun.
Yeah, well, you're welcome back anytime. We can enjoy a beer when you're off your 1 year without beer.
Yeah, no, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see how we go. It was a drunken decision, and then I decided to go sober for a year. So, yeah, we're on our way. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
I want to ask you.
It's also probably making me go crazy. So I don't recommend that thing either. It's a bad idea. Don't do it. Beer regulates people. Like you need to socialize. You need to kind of. Otherwise, you get stuck in your thoughts too long.
Sobriety is bad for the soul.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I find
Don't do it.
crazy philosophies. People could come up with certainly crazy philosophies with other, with booze or other sorts of substances, but I certainly think beer is a good pastime.
Yeah, well, the jury's still out if humans settled if it was for bread or for beer, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, jury's out.
Jury's out.
I'm gonna put my money is on the beer horse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll fill you up and you'll have a good time enjoying
Well,
it.
it's not that. It's that, if you're caveman coming down, caveman family,
Yeah.
and eating bread, you're like, oh, I'm full, let's keep going. But if it's a beer, you wake up in the morning, you're like, we are not walking 10 kilometers. Can we just stay here for a bit?
Yeah. Well,
Can we get some caveman macas or something?
caveman macas. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, get some pizza or whatever. You know what I mean?
I want to ask you one more question, Tasmin.
Yeah.
What's the next step for Tasmin Trezise?
It's doubling it down, I think, just on our software and our team. So that's it. It's 100% committed. So it's just going to be building out this next gen. All this software that's, as we're talking about, frontline workforces, that kind of stuff. There's so much more to be done in that area. We really want to see a platform that people can just kind of turn on, and then they can know exactly how much it's spending on labour. They can invest more in labour because they know how much it's returning. There's no such thing as a workforce. There's no workforce issues. There's no wage scandals that go on. It's so easy to pay and employ staff. We get our midnight employment from 22% down where it should be. So sub fives. We get rid of payroll tax. We lift the curfew. And we all just sit around and eat ice cream. Give people ice cream. That's incredible. Serve other people ice cream.
Awesome. Everyone can have ice cream. You get an ice cream. You get an ice cream. Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you very much for being on the show today. Cheers.
Yeah.
The show today was produced by Angus Brennan. If you'd like to know more about hospopreneurs, for advice, insights, and extra content, find us at hospopreneurs.com. Thanks for listening.